Okay, I think we are live. Yes, we are live. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the MM18 SCOPE Preparation webinar. My name is Tommaso Pomerani. I am the SCOPE Director, and I am from Italy. Here with me, I have my Regional Assistant for the Americas, Larry. Say hi,
hello,
Larry.
everyone.
And Åshild, the NEO-IN from Norway, and also member of the MM18 SCOPE Sessions team.
Hi, guys.
Okay, so I hope you're all here because you're interested in professional exchanges and preparing for the GA. If you're interested and if you're wondering why no one is talking about, I don't know, those kind of about antimicrobial resistance, then this is probably the wrong webinar. You have to go to SCOPE, and this is the one colored in orange. But if you're interested in professional exchanges, the ones colored in light blue, then yes, we are the right people for you now. I'm now going to turn off the cameras and share my screen so that we can start with the presentation that we prepared for you. So let me share my screen. Can you maybe confirm that you can see my screen, guys?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. No, this is all right. This is the other link to the webinar. So this is the presentation. Here it is. So as we said, we are very, very excited to start this webinar now. And this webinar is, of course, for us to share the most important information so that you can be ready for the March meeting and the amazing SCOPE sessions that we are preparing for you. So about this webinar, we're going to start with an introduction to the SCOPE sessions team. Then we're going to move on to the general agenda and explaining the SCOPE sessions agenda in detail. And then we are going to talk about the regional session and the small working groups, including the joint sessions for the GA. Also the MM18 preparation, that will be the next topic. So we will talk about the voting rights, the important deadlines, and all the and basically a sort of to-do list before MM18. Then we're going to briefly introduce the SCOPE Survivor Kit that has been shared just 1 hour ago, basically. And we're going to talk about the SCOPE regulation voting procedure and the summary of SCOPE regulation changes. And also the exchanges fair tips and tricks, because we are having a new version, amazing and interesting version of the exchanges fair. And then we're going to finish the online meeting with some things that you should remember to bring to the March meeting. And of course, we will open a space for questions from your side. So first of all, I'm going to introduce the SCOPE sessions team. This on the left side of the page, you can see the SCOPE international team for this term. I am the SCOPE director. I'm from Italy, as I said. I already introduced myself, but with me, I have the pleasure of working with all these amazing people who are really, really working tirelessly for you and to improve the quality of exchanges all around the world. The first one is Iris Blom, SCOPE General Assistant. The other one is Paula, the Development Assistant. Then we have Luchacha, the RA, Regional Assistant for Africa. Larry, who is also a speaker in this webinar, the Regional Assistant for the Americas. And then Karan, the Regional Assistant for Asia Pacific. Iman, the Regional Assistant for EMR. And Tanya, Regional Assistant for Europe. Together with us, we have also 5 other people from different NMOs who are helping us preparing the sessions, and they are basically the SCOPE sessions team. And Åshild from Norway is the first one, and she's also a speaker in this webinar. Then we have Kanchana from, she's from Thailand, but she's the NEO in Nepal, and she studies in Nepal. Then we have Gemma from the United Kingdom. She's the NEO in. Then we have the NEO out from Egypt, Omar, and then a former NEO from Metsa, Rwanda, Kevin. So let's start with the general agenda. This, as you can see here, this is the general agenda of the GA, of the March meeting. We will start, of course, on March the 1st, when there will be the opening ceremony and the first plenaries. And then we will start the first real working day will be the so-called day 1, which is the 2nd of March. And as you can see, on every day, there will be some at least 4 or 5 hours. I don't remember exactly the time now, but yeah, it's from 9 to 1 p.m. in the morning, and then on day 4 we will have some hours in the afternoon. Those marked in green are actually the standing committee sessions, and those are the times where when we will have our SCOPE sessions and we will talk about our amazing professional exchanges. In addition to that, there will be some spaces to talk about professional exchanges during the regional sessions that you can see marked here in this agenda, marked in purple on day 1 and on day 4. And then there will be some time and there will be a space to talk about some topics related to professional exchanges, but also to other standing committees during day 3 in the space about the joint session space. So let's move on with the SCOPE sessions agenda. This is the hopefully amazing agenda. I hope you will find it amazing that we prepared for you. There will be many sessions, of course, and on many topics and different types of sessions, because we would like to, of course, train you on the specific exchange-related topics, but also give you the space to share your problems and, of course, issues that you have with exchanges. And at the same time, also update you on what we have been doing so far as SCOPE International team. And of course, there will be a moment also to promote our exchanges, such as the Exchanges Fair. But I don't want to talk a lot about the general agenda. I want to analyze the sessions on thoroughly. So we will start from day 1. I will start analyzing the session one by one. Then we will start on day 1 with an introduction, of course, and the SCOPE speed dating as team building. So be ready for an amazing experience. You will get to know so many people in a very short amount of time. But we are sure it's going to be great. It's going to be great. Then we will move on to the next session, and that will be a parallel session. This is an important thing that I want to say, is that we also have some sessions that have been divided into advanced and beginners, because of course, as every time, as for every meeting, we are having, of course, basic participants with basic experience, and at the same time also participants with a very advanced experience and a long-term experience in exchanges. So we are trying to have sessions for beginners and advanced, so that you can so that those sessions can be beneficial for all different levels of experience. So the first parallel session will be for beginners. There will be an introduction to SCOPE and how to activate SCOPE. So for beginners and also people who are willing to activate SCOPE in the LC in their NMO. For the advanced session will be an update on the SCOPE strategic plan and the annual working plan, plus database updates. So then following session will be all together again, and it will be a sharing is caring. A sharing is caring is a moment where people are meant to share their problems and issues with exchanges. So we will divide you in different groups, and you will rotate between different groups. And each group will discuss about a specific topic. Then we will have 4 parallel trainings from midday to 1 p.m. And it will be, those topics will be mainly, there will be joint trainings with SCORI, 3 of them, and 1 of them will be only a SCOPE training. So the 3 trainings with SCORI are advocacy and recognition. Then, so for people who are maybe a little bit more expert about academic quality already and have already some knowledge of academic quality and would like to make the following step, let's say, which is having recognition for the program. And then financial management in exchanges, of course, for people who are interested in the topic, of course, but at the same time, it's important, I would say, for everyone, because it's really, really important to have our exchanges financially sustainable. So this training will help you creating the budget, thinking about how to make them financially sustainable in general. Then we will have academic quality. So we will explain the 9 steps of academic quality and how you can work to improve them. And then we will have a training for only for SCOPE, which basically where we will train the participants on how to improve exchanges using the evaluation form. So explaining the evaluation form, the data that you can see from the evaluation form, and how you can use them to improve your exchanges. Day 2. Day 2 is about tips for Exchange Fair, the first session, and presentation of small working groups. So in the morning, we will start with tips for the Exchanges Fair and presenting the small working groups that we will will be the small working groups of the last session of the day, starting from 11:30 to 1 p.m. And then we will have a parallel session. There will be as a session on how to organize PPT, UAT, and other educational activities together with SCORE again. And in parallel with this session, we will have the official discussion on the regulation change proposal. Then we will have a very particular and new sessions that we're going to introduce, which is a SCOPE Input Cafe from 10:30 to 11:30. It will be a sort of an ideas cafe, but it's for you to give input on the SCOPE international work. So things that we have been doing so far, also the results of some small working groups. And this is, I mean, it's a general session for input on the SCOPE international work, also for you to be more involved in what we're doing. And then the small working group times, of course, it will be a time for you to work in the small working group. It will be divided. You will choose the topic that you prefer, and you will have 1 hour and a half to really work on this topic and discuss it thoroughly with the other members of the small working group. So day 3, we have an extra time for discussion on regulation change proposal or small working group time from 9 to 9:30. In case we do not manage to finish the discussion on the regulation change proposals, we will, of course, use this time for the discussion on the regulation change proposal. In case we manage to finish, then it will be up to each small working group to decide whether or not they want to use this time, they want to use this half an hour in the morning of day 3 to continue working on their topic. But at 9:30, it will be the preparation for the Exchanges Fair will start. So SCOPE and SCORE IT will prepare the room, of course, and will organize everything. But yeah, you have to be ready because that is the biggest moment of the GA, and in general, it's probably the most exciting moment for a SCOPE addict in general. So the first 2 hours of the Exchange Fair will be open to NEOs and NORIs only, or delegates, representatives from the NMO. This thing will be explained later on, but basically there will be only 2 delegates for SCOPE, and 2 for SCORE will be allowed to enter the room for the first 2 hours. And then there will be a 1 hour where the Exchange Fair will be open to everyone. Then in the afternoon, we're going to have the space for the joint sessions, and we're going to talk about that later on. But yeah, the 2 SCOPE joint sessions, SCOPE-related joint session are intercultural learning and culture shock, and then public health exchanges. Day 4. Day 4 is about, we're going to have the session in the afternoon on day 4. We will start with a 30-minute discussion on the SCOPE and presentation of the SCOPE initiatives and what we have been doing so far for the SCOPE initiatives. So this will be, of course, coordinated by the development assistant who is working on these initiatives. And then we're going to have another half an hour discussion about SCOPE and IFMSA programs. So basically how to enroll, explaining what is an IFMSA program, how they can be relevant to SCOPE, and how we can enroll educational activities under IFMSA programs. From 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., we will have 2 parallel sessions. The one for beginners is, and I would say the one for the people who are not delegates from their NMO, so they're not supposed to vote for their NMO. So those people will be invited to join the communication and conflict management in SCOPE. It's a training. And the other ones who are, of course, entitled to vote for the NMOs will be, of course, invited to join the SCOPE regulation voting session, and we will vote on each regulation change proposal. Day 5, the last day. Everyone will be sad, unfortunately, because it will be the last day. But yeah, we're still gonna have an exciting day before saying goodbye. We will start with a wake-up session, so a little bit of energizers and a moment for you to wake up and start the day, because it's also the last day. So you're likely to be tired, I think. So then we will divide the session into 3 parallel trainings. We will have a stress resilient and time management training, then another training on global health in SCOPE, and then for beginners, Then we'll have a session on study cases where we will propose study cases based on real cases that participants will have to discuss and try to come up with a possible solution for these cases. Then we're going to have a half an hour about PRET hosts and NMO successes. So it will be a presentation. We will open a call for NMOs who want to present their successes, or also for PRET hosts if they want to promote their PRET. And there will be a very limited time to present their own success or PRET, of course, and there will be a space for question. And then we're going to have the SCOPE SCORE trainings from 11 to 1 p.m. There will be some desks during the previous days where you will be invited to subscribe to these trainings. These are part of the SCOPE session, so you have to subscribe to these trainings. And those trainings will be facilitated by the the soon to graduate exchange trainers coming out from the training new exchange trainers in the pre-GA. So yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be their first experience facilitating training, but we are sure they're going to be great. And you will also tell us how the training will be, of course. But we're going to have a series of very, very interesting topics for you. Then in the afternoon, we will have small working group outcomes. So we will present the outcomes of the small working group that worked on day 2. And then the outcomes of MM18 SCOPE sessions for half an hour, and then a final session for saying goodbye to each other and also taking very nice pictures of the SCOPE sessions participants. So I will now give the word to Åshild for talking about the regional sessions.
Yes, we're going to talk a bit about the regional sessions. They will be on day 1 and day 4. Regional session on day 1 will be 3 hours, and on day 4 it will be 2 hours. The regional sessions are divided in different parts. So you have general parts, and you also have the standing committee parts. So today we will talk about the SCOPE standing committee parts for the regional sessions. As you can see here, it's a bit different. Africa will have split sessions, 1 on day 1 and 1 on day 4. While Americas, Asia, Pacific, EMR, and Europe will have their SCOPE sessions on day 1. So now we can go through what they will have. All the regions will try and focus on the specific priorities for their region. So for example, Africa will talk about visa issues, the same will Asia. And as you can see here, you have that whole table with what everyone will go through. You will have some introductions and capacity building. Exchange week preparations will be in all the different SCOPE sessions. Americas will have some SCOPE IT update, also capacity building. And yeah, you can move on to the next slide. Here you see it's quite the same for all of them, but Europe has a split or divided session, parallel sessions, with 1 word recognition within Europe and 1 educational activities in Europe, each for 55 minutes. I think that's the main difference between them. And now I will talk a bit about the joint sessions that Tommy mentioned. There will be different joint sessions. So here are the list of everyone. It will be intercultural learning and cultural shock, public health exchanges, research initiatives for medical students, public health and medical curricula, ethics and human rights and medical curriculum, the price of being healthy, human rights for the intersex population, and multi-drug resistant AMR. So the 2 sessions I will talk a bit more about is the session SCOPE are involved in. It's intercultural learning and culture shock training, which will be a joint session between SCOPE, SCORE, and SCORP. This training will focus on the fact that as medical students, we should deliver culturally appropriate healthcare for the diverse patients we will meet. And we will work in different sociocultural settings So it's important to highlight this. So the focus area will be intercultural learning, cultural shock, and how working in an intercultural environment, like in IFMSA, or by attending the exchanges through SCOPE and SCORE, how that enhances a medical student's cultural competences. And then we have the public health exchanges, which recently was launched with the regulations and everything. So at this session, it's a session between SCOPE and SCOF, and we will go through the recent released exchanges and how they work and how we can participate in them. We'll go through the implementation, discuss that, how can you implement it, how can you start it, and we will also talk about how to strengthen the collaboration with SCOPE and SCOF, both on local and national levels. Yeah, you can change for the next, the small working groups. We will have 10 small working groups. The first two here, global health training and basic surgical skills training, will mainly be, because these are small working groups that are making a training that will be implemented through the year. So these trainings will be for you to give us inputs on the trainings that have been made so far, the outlines, the details of the subtopics in these small working groups. And then you have the contact person manual, where is a small working group making a manual. So we will get inputs from you on what should be included in the contact person manual, and what CPs do in your NMOs to finalize this. And we have the exchange finances, where we will discuss the finances of our exchanges, fundraising, and so on. Then we have the first come, first served. Has it gone too far? This is that AFs are getting sent sooner and sooner. And this is an issue because it's really hard to secure spots for our outgoing students. So this group will discuss if there should be a deadline on how early you can send the AFs, and tips on and advice on how to optimize document gathering. Then we have the National Social Program Organization, how to. Here we will discuss and share experiences and come up with solutions for problems related to human resources, timeline, veterinary funds, and activities. Then it's the labyrinth of insurances. As you might have dealt with already, it's hard to find insurances, know where to find them, what types to get, and so on. So we will try and have a small working group on this to get suggestions from you guys on what insurances do you use, and try and make a list of insurance companies that students can use and how they can use it, and how we can help on the organization of the requested insurances. Then we have the communication channels and NEOS/LEO's involvement. This is to get ideas and tips on how we can involve everyone in discussions. How can we have a better flow of work, and how can we easily share experiences, and throughout the year, how can we make our communication more effective? So we would like to hear your ideas on this. Stakeholders mapping, the key to success. In March meeting 2017, there was a group that made a structure of a stakeholder map, and now we would like to actually start making the concrete stakeholder map by identifying possible stakeholders, pros and cons of the different ones, and to identify why these stakeholders could be interested in supporting us. And the last one is the evaluation form for tutors. This is part of the SCOPE annual working plan, and we mainly want you guys to come up with questions that should be in an evaluation form for tutors. So I think that will be it for the small working groups.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
So, give the word to Larry now for the MM18 preparations. So, go ahead,
Yes, hello everyone. Hello everyone. So now we're going to be talking about the voting rights. There are some specific things that must be done before the March meeting in order to have voting rights. Remember that having voting rights, it's equal to having SCOPE active in your NMO. So please take this in count. So the first one in the letter A is about the submission of the new report, which must be done before before February 1st. Well, so most of the NMOs have already been done this. And the other one is about review, update, and of the NEO's contact information, stamp, and signature in database. That must be done after the February 1st. So now all the NEOs are in the period of time where you can do all of this. And the third one is about the completion of the NMO and the LC's Explorer pages of your NMO. So this must be done before the February 15th. So take this all in count, please. And moving on with the next slide, we have some things that must be done before the March meeting in 2018. That one of them is completing all the voting rights tasks before the February 15th. The other one is about the preparing of the hard copies of the invitation letters that you have already discussed and already coordinated with the other NEOs. So as you may see in your NEOs account emails, so many NEOs are sending emails regarding the hard copies of the invitation letters. So if you are requested of that, just prepare it and take it to the March meeting place. And the other one is about the prepare and make your poster for the exchange fair. And try to do it with your with Discovery if you have it active in your NMO. So in that way, you can promote all the exchange program in the investigation part and then the clinical part. So SCOPE Discovery join together to promote the NMO as well. Okay. And the last thing that you must be doing is about all the SCOPE regulation change proposals. We in the SCOPE international team are making a big effort trying to make really good SCOPE relations for you. So please try to read it all and give your opinion on it. And well, moving to the next slide, we have the SCOPE Survival Kit. This document, the SCOPE Survival Kit, it has been sent through all the servers to the NEO server, to the SCOPE server. So please check them. It's really important for you to read it. It has so essential information for you. It has what you must be expecting as a newcomer of the session, what are the March meeting 2018 preparation, what are the things that are being are going to be using during the voting procedures, what are you expected to bring to the sessions, etc. And even if the code of conduct that we must be following during all the session and all the events. So please read it. It's really important for you to be prepared. It's a long but dynamic document. It has 28 pages, so you will absolutely have information there. So, and now we're gonna move on with the SCOPE Relations voting procedure. Tommy?
All right. Yes, thanks, Larry. Yes, we're gonna move on with the SCOPE regulation voting procedure. I know that this is a topic that might sound quite strange for some of you, and like this old fancy lady who is probably an old SCOPE member, considering that the fact that she has a light blue T-shirt. Maybe she's an old SCOPE director who is not anymore on top of things, and she doesn't understand the voting procedures anymore. But now we are here to explain you everything about the regulations voting procedures. So I hope that you will feel better at the end of this part of the session. So let's start with the types of majorities. First of all, because you know that there are different types of majority, and of course, those majority are related to different types of situations that we might have when we are voting on a specific motion that has been proposed. But first of all, I'm going to start by listing them one by one. The first one is simple majority. Simple majority means that there are more votes in favor than against. Abstentions do not count. So the motion passes if there are more votes in favor, basically, without counting abstentions. In case of absolute majority, however, the motion passes only if there are more than 50% of all the votes in favor. And in this case, abstentions count. So that means that more than half of the people of the animal, in this case with voting rights, are actually in favor of the proposal. There is also the relative majority. In this case, it's related to a situation when you have more than one proposal and you have to vote between one proposal or an alternative proposal, or maybe also against both proposals. And in this case, the proposal receiving the most votes carries. Abstentions do not count, though. In case there are more votes against than for any of the proposals, all proposals fail. So that means that in this case, the proposal that has the highest number of votes, basically, even if the the proposal that has the highest number of votes carries, even if it's not representative of the majority of the animals with voting rights. So even if it's not more than 50% of the animals. And also, if the highest number of people is against any proposal, the proposals fail, all proposals. Two-thirds majority is a kind of particular majority. It's also called a supermajority, because it's a majority where the number of votes in favor are at least twice the number of votes against, and abstentions do not count in this case. So, what happens during the SCOPE regulation voting? This is a SCOPE motion and debate maze. It's basically very similar to the plenary procedures for those of you who are more familiar with the plenary procedures, except for a few details. But yeah, that's what happens, and I'm going to explain you step by step what happens when the motion is proposed. The chair reads, the first thing is that the chair reads the motion and asks the proposer to give a brief explanation of the motion, of course. After the brief explanation of the motion, the chair asks if there is a seconder for a motion. So the motion, of course, is proposed by someone. It can be the SCOPE international team, or it can be an animal with voting rights. But at the same time, there needs to be a seconder for every motion, for every proposed motion. So that means there has to be another animal that seconds the motion. If there is no seconder, the motion fails automatically. If the seconder is found, then we're going to move on to the next step. And the chair asks for the amendments. What are the amendments? The amendments are, if you want to amend a motion, it means you want to change something in the original motion, but it's a minor edit. That means it's a word. It means it's a short part of a phrase. Because if you want to change significantly the meaning of the motion, then you have to vote against that motion and propose an alternative motion. And the alternative motion is going to be explained later on. So the amendment, if there is no amendment, the chair asks directly if there is any direct negative. But if there are any amendments, then the amendments are tabled, and then we have to, of course, the chair has to ask the proposer if the proposer accepts the amendment. If the proposer accepts the amendment, then we also have to ask the seconder if the seconder accepts the amendment. If the seconder also accepts the amendment is incorporated in the original motion. So the amended motion will become the final motion that will be voted by the SCOPE active animals, basically. In the case, let's move back to the case where the amendment is accepted by the proposer, but it's not accepted by the seconder. So we have to find at this point another seconder who automatically accepts the amendment because it's seconding the amended motion. If there is no seconder, then the motion fails. If there is a seconder that accepts the amendment motion, then the amendment is automatically incorporated in the original motion, to the original motion. Again, let's move back to the case when the amendment is tabled, but the proposer does not accept the amendment. If the proposer does not accept the amendment, then we will proceed to an immediate vote between the original motion and the amendment. In this case, the motion that has a simple majority carries. So that means that more votes in favor, basically. One of the two motions, the one that has more votes in favor. And abstentions do not count. So at the end, we will have either the original motion or the amended motion that will move on to the next step, which is the final vote on the motion. Before proceeding to the final vote, the chair will ask if there is any direct negative, as I said before. If there isn't any direct negative, the motion passes nemo contra, which means with no votes against. But if there is a direct negative, which means an NMO that is clearly against the motion, then the chair will ask if there is any alternative motion that that the NMO against the motion want to propose. If the NMO doesn't want to propose any alternative motion, it's just simply against the motion that is going to be voted on, then we will just proceed with a vote on the original motion, and the motion will pass only if it has a 2/3 majority, only with the 2/3 majority. So the votes in favor are twice the votes against. If the person against, the NMO against the motion wants to propose an alternative motion, and as I said before, the alternative motion in this case is a motion that it's clearly significantly different from the original one. You maybe want to say the opposite, for example. Let's just make an example. I don't know, the NMO of Springfield proposes that the Leo has to offer an ice cream to every incoming that they host. And then let's just forget about the amendments now. We're directly proceeding with the vote, and the chair asks if there are any direct negative, and the NMO of Gotham City says that it's direct negative and proposes an alternative motion. In this case, they propose that the incomings have to offer an ice cream to their Leo. So in this case, it's clearly the opposite. So it's an alternative motion. So in this case, when there is an alternative motion, and also when there is a direct negative but no alternative motion, the chair can open a speakers list, which is a moderated discussion. So every NMO that wants to speak will be allowed to speak and added to a list. Then when the speakers list is closed, we will proceed with asking each NMO in the list to speak. No other NMO will be allowed to speak. So if you want to speak and share your opinion on the motions that are going to be voted on, you have to basically raise your voting card when the chair opens the speakers list and before the speakers list is closed. So we have a moderated discussion, and then the chair asks for, at the end of the moderated discussion, in case we have an alternative motion, the chair asks for a seconder for the alternative motion. If there is no seconder, we go back to voting on the original motion only. Otherwise, if there is a seconder, we will vote between the original motion and the alternative motion, and the third option of voting against both. And the motion that carries is the one that has the majority of votes between the three, with relative majority. So I hope this is a very, very complicated, I would say, procedure. We will be explaining it again during the March meeting, so don't worry about that. But this is an introduction, and I hope that you will feel more familiar with it at least. So these are the SCOPE regulation change proposal. We're going to move on to the next topic. Actually, it's more or less the same topic. We're now going to talk about the proposed regulation changes for the March meeting. We're just giving you a summary of the changes, of course, because we have 41 proposals and we don't have time to analyze them one by one. Also, because mainly there are minor changes. So yeah, it's a high number, it's a big number, but don't freak out. There are mainly minor changes to the regulations. Of some things there were overlapping, or some things that were contradicting another regulation. But then we have some proposals about new concepts of suspension and removal or loss of membership, because we, as SCOPE IT, we found that the concept of suspension was not very well defined in some parts of the regulation. It clearly meant a loss of membership. So that means that the NMO was losing the status of SCOPE active NMO and had to apply again, just like a new NMO, with all the documents, the letter from the hospital, and so on, to regain active membership within SCOPE. And in other cases, it was really, really a suspension. So it was a temporary suspension from the SCOPE activities, with the possibility for the NMOs to regain full activity without submitting any kind of document or any kind of procedure like new NMOs have to do. if the problem at the end of the period of suspension is solved. So we're now clarifying these two concepts and basically defining them. The Explore pages update is moved to the August meeting to align with the SCORE regulations, and we have the discussion with SCORE about what could be the best time especially for our exchange students to update the Explore pages. Then we have a revision of the PREP regulations, including the new PREP evaluation form that we're developing and making it mandatory for every PREP to ask the participants to fill in the evaluation form, introducing the PREP certificate, and also clarifying some aspects of the PREP regulations that SCORE already clarified, but they were not so clear in our regulations. Then we're going to have a proposal on changes to the SCOPE regulation to change the majority from a 2/3 majority to an absolute majority when voting on a motion. And then two proposals by Helmsick Greece. One is about warning email for limited capacity, and the other one is about the eligibility to take part in a SCOPE exchange. So how to discuss the proposals? Guys, discuss them in advance, please. Please, please, please. This is a very, very important recommendation that we give you. Be prepared for the GA, and the GA is the moment where we are supposed to come to a conclusion for the discussion on the regulation change proposals, and not to start the discussion in that moment, because the time is limited. As you probably noticed, there will be 1 hour for discussion of the SCOPE regulation change proposals, and you have to be prepared for the GA. It's the moment where you're supposed to come up with a way forward and decide, basically clarify your last doubts and decide what you want to do in the voting session, how you want to vote for this motion. We also have a discussion sheet. The regulation change proposal, of course, NEOs are the ones who are, or delegates or NMO representatives, are the ones who are allowed to vote on behalf of their NMO. So these proposals have been shared only with the NEOs and not with other people. There's also a discussion sheet with the proposal, which is a Google document shared with NEOs. And you can go to the discussion sheet that has been shared with the NEO server. So there is the email with a link, but we're going to send it to you also again after the end of the webinar, where you can go and add comments or suggestions to the document. So you can just basically have a discussion on the document. Also, you can open a thread on the NEO server if you think you want to discuss about some things by opening the thread. Pay attention to this. If you are a NEO but will not attend the GA, please discuss the proposals in advance and inform your official representatives in the SCOPE session on how to vote, because these people are supposed to vote on your behalf. One very final thing is about exchanges in multiple departments. There is a discussion in the NEO server that has been opened recently. Please share your opinion by 28th of February. This is a possible new initiative that allows students to go to attend an exchange in 2 different departments for 1 month, 2 weeks each. But we are trying to understand your opinion on that, since it was not, since it didn't pass in Tanzania. We're having a discussion now to understand your opinion, especially on whether you think it will be more beneficial or not for academic quality. And the outcome of this discussion is a possible adoption of the initiative and the guidelines during EMA meeting. So that means that there will be a test phase for the initiative. So it will not be incorporated in the regulation, but there will be at least an official adoption of the initiative and the guidelines, and that will allow us to start a test phase if you want. Let's move on with the next topic, the exchanges fair tips and tricks. So Mary, you can talk about this topic now.
Sorry, as for the exchange fair tips and tricks, we have first of all the model of the poster that every NMO must have. So for this, you must take in account that there are some specific measures of the poster that you must take in account, and it's already specified there in this format. So just try to read it carefully and take your time, and try to you must accomplish all the measures, all the things that are described there. Okay. Another thing that you must take in account is that you will be having this poster ready by March 4th at 10 a.m. So for this, my recommendation is to not wait to print it in Egypt. Just take it already printed to the event, to the GA. So try to print it in your country and just take it printed. Okay. And other thing that you must be taking in account is about the organization with SCORE. Try to make a poster not only promoting the SCOPE part, but also promoting the SCORE part. So in that way, you will be promoting the exchange program of your NMO as a total and not just as a partial standing committee. So, and one recommendation that is really, really important, and we are trying to introduce it in this SCOPE, in this exchange fair, is about being eco-friendly as possible and reduce the waste. We're trying to reduce all the things that could be generating waste of material that cannot be reused for another further events or parts of the events. Okay, so moving on with the next slide, we have the competition for the best exchange fair poster stand. So for this, there are gonna be some people evaluating. There are gonna be the NMOs are gonna be involved in this part of the evaluation, and also we're gonna be having the SCOPE and SCORE international teams review committee. And what is gonna be this about? We're gonna have a criteria for the evaluation that will be having in account the general exchange information that you will be delivering for all of us, and also the presentation of the academic quality, the presentation of the social program. If you have a national social program, if you have an international one, also is gonna be like taken into account. The promotional materials and eco-friendliness. So as far as you go green, the better you will be having this. Great. Okay, so the other one is the visual presentation of the poster and the verbal presentation of the poster. So please try to be as best prepared as possible for this exchange fair. You're gonna be having a really good prize at the end of the event. Moving on with tips and tricks. First, you must be arriving early for the exchange fair preparation. As you could see in the agenda, you will be having a short period of time to prepare all the stand, all the things that you're gonna be like presenting in the exchange fair. So just try to be on time on this part of the agenda, because you won't have a lot of time. You're having only like half an hour or a little bit more, and that, believe me, that's not like enough for preparing a really good exchange stand. And only the other thing that you must take in account is that only 4 people per NMO are going to be allowed to stay in the fair for a specific period of time. So 2 people will be the ones that are going to be selected for SCOPE and 2 people for SCORE. So just try to think about it since now in advance. Who is going to be those 2 people that are going to be entering into the space where are going to be this exchange fair taking place? Okay, and also you must be planning how it's going to be your stand. If you could add some visual parts, you could add some promotional parts for your stand that could be like eco-friendly, would be really useful. And also grab the attention of the people that are going to be like listen to you, focusing on educational activities. There are some of the activities that are really like more interesting for the people to hear, and also focus on the academic quality initiatives. And why should you go to this country? I mean, at the time that you are trying to walk around through all the stands, try to imagine that the people that are listening to you are thinking about why should I go to this country? So try to solve this stuff, try to answer this interrogative as better as possible and as promotional as possible as well. If you have any video, it's a really good idea to show it as well. So just taking count that. So now we're gonna be moving to remember to bring some stuff. Tommy?
Yes. So thank you very much, Larry. Yeah, remember to go green for the Exchanges Fair. Ash, it's time to talk about remember to bring.
Yeah. Okay, so we have made a list for you to make it easier for you to remember all the things you have to bring for the March meeting. So as you can see, we have the must bring things. You have to bring the hard copy invitation letters for those NMOs that has requested it from you. It is smart to have a document where you have all the NMOs you have to bring hard copy invitation letters to make it more structured and easier to remember them all. And you also need the NEO stamp if you have one. And so Larry was talking about, you need a poster for your NMO for the exchange fair. And you should also bring the survival kit and documents sent to you before the GA from the SCOPE director. This will make it easier for you to keep track during the GA because you have all the documents, so it's easy to find and lock up information if you need anything. And if you have a SCOPE t-shirt, you should bring that to represent the best standing committee.
So true.
And you can go on to the next slide. And we have for there, you should, if you have one, have a traditional national hat, because that will make it easier for you to see the different NMOs and find the right ones for one talk and find out how their exchanges are. And you should bring a large size national flag to make it easier to find people as well. And if you're doing pictures and videos, you should have laptops, tablets to show them on, to make it friendly, and your eco-friendly promotional materials, preferably. And if you have a t-shirt or unique costume from your country as well, you can bring this too, to make it easier for people to find you and to represent your country, so everyone can see the special things that you have in your country. And last but not least is the sweets, chocolate, or traditional snacks. I really recommend you to bring this one. And I think that's the whole list, and that is the last part.
Yes.
So I think
Thank you very much, Ash. So yeah, we will open a space for questions now. In case you have any questions or doubts, feel free to share by writing them in the chat. So we're gonna, do we have already some questions, guys? You are, those of you are having a look at the chat.
I cannot see any questions so far.
Me neither.
Guys, if you have questions, feel free to share. We're gonna wait for, let's say, a few minutes. And then if you don't have any questions, we're gonna close the webinar and say goodbye. We really hope you're excited for this March meeting, guys. We are really working hard for you. So
we have gotten a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Does the poster have to be in that format with a blue rectangle?
Yes, they have to be in that format. They're supposed to be in that format, and this is also one of the criteria for evaluation. Of course, you have to use the template that we are providing you.
Is there a minimum size for the poster?
Sorry?
Is there a minimum size for the poster? New question.
Okay, so there is there's the poster size that maximum measurement is 120 centimeters in height and 90 centimeters in width. So it's also included in the poster template instructions, as you can see from this slide. This is the poster template on the right that you can see. And you have this poster template in the March meeting folder. It has been shared with you and it will be shared again. But yeah, try to have this following maximum measurements. And consider also when planning, as you can see again from the poster template, when you are adding pictures or specifically when you're adding content, so words, phrases to describe your exchange program, try to pay attention to the font size because most of the people viewing your poster will actually look at your poster from a distance from between 1 to 2 meters. So the content has to be visible from 1 to 2 meters. So pay attention to this when you create your poster.
A new question.
Sorry, new question. Okay.
Yes.
Will there be the instructions for posters provided, or they will be placed on the wall?
So you will be asked to print your poster and bring it to the GA, and we will. Yes, we will. They will be attached to a wall, specifically in the Exchanges Fair room. We are thinking about collecting the posters as well online. But yeah, this is something that for now, just think about printing your posters and bringing it to the March meeting, because that is what is going to happen during the Exchanges Fair. You're gonna have the posters behind each stand, and people are gonna move around the stands and look at every poster. If it's related to the GA, to have the posters on the in online format, we can never. I mean, the thing is that we cannot even rely that much on the internet during the GA, even though we're going to have a SIM card this time, I think. But yeah, so we're going to have the poster printed, and then yeah, we'll also try to collect it for another occasion, but more information will be given in the future soon. Are there any other questions?
Nothing more coming up yet.
I can hear you very well now.
There's no more questions coming up right now,
Okay.
as I can see.
Okay, so I would say that we can close the webinar then. So thank you very, very, very much for attending this webinar. Of course, if you're those of you who are not able to attend the webinar, or even if you attended a webinar but you wanted, but you want to view the webinar again because you would like to listen again to some explanation of specific things, you can watch it on YouTube on the IFMSA official YouTube channel. So yeah, this is it from me, Larry, and Asheld. So let's maybe share our faces for the last time, I would say. So yeah, thank you very much again, guys, and see you in Egypt. And yeah, we're gonna have so much fun, believe me. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it will be great. Bye, guys.
It will be great.